Today I have announced Labor's commitment to extending Pharmac funding. In government, we've increased Pharmac funding significantly and we're going to continue to do so. The extra $1 billion that we're going to put into Pharmac over the next 4 years will mean that under a Labor government, a re-elected Labor government, the overall budget for Pharmac will have increased by 62%. That's a pretty proud track record in contrast to the 25% funding increase that they got under the last national government over the 9 years that they were in government. That's allowed them to fund a range of new medications and expand access to existing medications, all at a time when we clearly understand that the cost of everything has been going up as well. We're committed to continuing to increase Pharmac funding. And I would note that that is in contrast with the National Party, who want to cut access to free prescriptions in order to fund a hand-picked group of cancer drugs. That doesn't do anything for the other people who are waiting for information on whether they're going to be able to get access to the medicines that they might like to access. There are a range of other health conditions that would be ignored under National's plan, and people who are currently able to access free prescriptions would no longer be able to do that under their plan. I think it's another example of, day by day, the risks that New Zealanders see from a coalition of chaos and cuts that a National Act New Zealand First government would be. I wanted to share a few observations with you that they have said about each other before we get into questions today. For example, David Seymour has described Winston Peters as the least trustworthy person in New Zealand politics and has said, "We're not going to be sitting around the cabinet table with this clown." He then said that he wouldn't fight Winston Peters because it would be elder abuse. Winston Peters retorted that David Seymour reminds me of a chihuahua at the front gate barking at every cat, human being or fellow dog that passes by. He then said David Seymour discovered his Māoriness the same way Columbus discovered America, purely by accident, and went on to make a number of other comments. But he then went on to say of David Seymour, "I've spent much of my career respecting and working for retirees," and then accused David Seymour of wanting to euthanise them, and then said, "As for your nasty comments about my physical, I reckon you'd last about 10 seconds in the ring with me," which is about how long a National Act New Zealand First government would be able to hold it together. Clearly, the idea of a government involving Winston Peters and David Seymour would be a recipe for chaos. It wouldn't be in New Zealand's best interests, and the best way for New Zealanders to avoid that is to give their party vote to Labour.